Hello and welcome to Icon Educate. Now we're going to learn how to create and navigate an interactive whiteboard. The interactive whiteboard is the backbone of this system. It's something you're going to use almost every single day. Now understand that an interactive whiteboard is an in-class activity. Even though students can access your whiteboard from any location, either during or after the class, it really is, when you create it, you have to actually have a class. It is not a home activity. So the first thing we're going to do is add a class to this lesson. And once we do that, you can see the options come up to add an in-class activity or add your collaborative whiteboard. So let's go ahead and add a whiteboard. And as usual, with anything, we have to name it. So I'm going to name it Lesson 1 and go ahead and save. Now at this point, I can start to prepare it because this is my whiteboard. I created this. Understand that if the school gave you a whiteboard and it already exists, you would have to come over here and click the purple bar and click on the Prepare button for each class to edit the whiteboard they already gave you. All right, so I'm going to do it here to prepare, and once I prepare this whiteboard, it'll save it to both classes. So you go ahead and click on this and your whiteboard opens in prepare mode. Now in the far left you have your navigations and your commands. Then you have your page operations. You have your exit, and you have the ability to navigate back and forth to the pages in the left and right, and a slider bar all the way over to the far right to go up and down. So let's look at some of these functions here on the far left. The first one you come to are additional options. Additional options allow you to log out, or, very important, to do the settings. These are the default settings it comes with, but you can choose not to auto broadcast your whiteboard to the students. You can show annotation controls for the students or turn those off. Don't allow them to mark up the whiteboard. You can allow students to independently navigate back and forth in the whiteboard, or you can turn it off, which means they're always on the page you're on. You can allow students to play back a video in class or turn it off, meaning you don't want 30 people with a device all of a sudden playing the same video, or you just hit play. Now, after class, they can always play the video. You can receive notifications that pop up on your screen each time a student leaves the class. You can get question notifications to the teacher. So there's a lot of different options that you can kind of set this up the way you want it to work for you by turning these features on or off and then saving them. Now, I'm going to show you the rest of the commands, but the first thing I'm going to do, the most important one, is the very bottom where it says embed content. Obviously, this is where I'm going to start. So when I click on that, it gives me options. I can embed something from a local file. I can record a webcam or take a picture. I can embed web content from YouTube, or I can search images and then embed them. Let me click the red X to close that. Or I can embed something from my content vault if I've already put it there. But at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to embed a PowerPoint. You can embed PowerPoints or PDFs or whatever you want. I'm going to embed a PowerPoint from my local disk. Now the minute I start to do this, you'll see it said, would you like to show the animations of this PowerPoint? And I'm going to say yes. It'll be a little bit slower, but I like to keep my animations. Understand you should keep your animations simple, nothing too complex, because it will overwhelm the whiteboard. Now as it's uploading the file, you can have it run in the background, or you can go back and continue to work on other activities, and you can always come back, and eventually it will upload. It is rather fast, but it does have to parse the system, etc. So while it's reading it, we'll come back once it's uploaded. Okay, once it's uploaded, it'll allow you to preview the embed, and you can see all the pages of the PowerPoint are selected. I can deselect them all and choose which ones I want to embed, or unselect them, or I can just simply select all and embed them. If I decide this was not what I wanted to do, I can always back out completely and re-upload something new. But I'm going to go ahead and embed these 6 PowerPoint slides. And there you go. Now keep in mind, it looks very small here only because it's set to perfectly fit a screen of a 9.7-inch iPad or 9.7-inch screen. I'm using a browser or an iPad Pro, which gives me a lot of white space around here. Now, the other tool you have here, once you've created this, you have your page navigations to the left and right, where I can go from one slide to the next. The other thing that I can do is I can go up here at the top to page operations. I click on that and you can see I can quickly go to the very end, go to the very beginning. I can sort the pages, I can hide content or pages. I can insert pages before or after. Really great for math teachers or science teachers who want to do a quick blank white page to write a bunch of notes. I can delete this page, or I can add a common background to this page if I want to make it pretty. If I know the exact page of the whiteboard I want to go to, I can just type it in here. The page sorter kind of brings up everything that you have. Now, at some point, if you decide that you want to delete, you can always go up here in the upper right, mark for delete, pick the ones you want to delete, and then go ahead and delete them. Or you can cancel and say, I didn't really want to delete them anyway. So once you're done, at the far left, you click the arrow to go back. And now we're going to look at some of the other navigation. The final one that I'll cover is quizzes. But the big one is right here, your pin. Obviously, the pin is going to be very common. So you click on your pin navigation, and then you go over here, and you have your color picker in the upper right. And this will allow you to click how thick you want the lines to be and in what color you want them to be. And then you simply take your Apple Pen, your finger, or your cursor, and you start writing. Right below that is the marker or the highlighter. So you click on that. Again, click on the color you want. And then you go with your pen or your marker and you just drag it across to highlight. Now the one thing to notice is right down here. You can see these 2 buttons have now appeared as I'm marking this up. This is a quick back to kind of get rid of what you just did, or nope, go forward, bring it back. All right, so this is a great tool to kind of get rid of or bring back what you already did. The other thing you have right below this is you have text. Now text is when you just want to type something. Let's say you don't like your handwriting. You can go and you can pick the font you want. You can pick the size you want. You can make it italics or bold, and you can pick the color that you want. So let's say I want purple and I want large, and then I click exactly where I want right there and I type my text. So whatever you want to do. So you can make it multiple lines, etc. Now you also have below the text tool the eraser tool. If you don't want to use this to back up and go forward, you simply click on your eraser tool and you drag it over whatever it is you want to erase. Now if you accidentally erase something, don't worry, you can always bring it back with these 2 tools at the bottom. Below that you have your select tool. So the select tool, let's say I go and embed something. One of the kids asks a question about a word and I find it difficult to explain. So I go real quick and I do a Google image search. So, and I say, no, I don't like any of those. Let's load some more. And I think, well, okay. In the end, I just decide to do this one. And it will embed the image. And you can see it puts it right below whatever's already on the page. But I didn't really want it there. So I go over here and click the Select tool. And then you can see it shows up with these little tools. So the 4 arrow tool means I click and hold on that and I can move it wherever I want. Then the double arrow, I click on that and it gives me guides. I say, well, that's way too big, so I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. Then you have the rotating tool if you want to spin the image around. And you have, of course, the trash tool. I'm going to go ahead and put this image up here, make it a little bit smaller. Whoops. And there you go. Now you can also see with my selector tool, I can actually move text around, or let's say I'm like, oops, I didn't mean to do this. Let me put that type down here, and oh, I meant to move. You can move anything that you want with your select tool to kind of say, well, let me put it right here. Now the other thing is you have shapes. Shapes can be simple icons. And let me move that up here. I'm going to put my little smiley face. And let's see, what other shape do I want? Math teachers, they like this. I can put 3-dimensional shapes, great for math. And you can move that around, resize it very quickly. So it's really up to you what you want to do. So there's a lot of different tools here that allow you to do this. Now the next thing we're going to go through is how to create a quiz, because this is a very important tool as well. You can do quick quizzes or polls to kind of ask quick questions for students. Now let's look at how to create some quizzes inside the interactive whiteboard that you can launch during the class. So you go up here to Quiz, and it will open up your Manage Quizzes screen, because you can do as many as you'd like in each whiteboard. And you see you have the back arrow in the upper left. It'll just take you back. So we have no quizzes yet, so let's go ahead and click on in the upper right, New Quiz. You can see it comes up. Now, some things to notice are the controls. So obviously you have the ability to add more questions. So there's 2 questions, 3 questions. If you click on the actual number, you have the ability to insert questions later, or to delete a question, or to navigate between the questions. You have all the way over here, you have the X, which will take you out of the quiz, similar to this arrow. Then you have quiz settings. This can be a live quiz, which means the interactive whiteboard has to be broadcasting from the teacher and the students will take it. Or it can be an off live, which means even if they access the whiteboard after class is finished, they can still take the quiz. You can set a time limit either by question or by quiz. However, average time per question or average time per quiz. Next to the quiz settings are the question settings. It can be multiple choice, the standard layout, or vertical stacked, or matrix. You decide which layout is best for you. How many choices do you want? And you can assign it a difficulty level. So let's say I want 3 choices for this question. And then for question number 1, I still have 4 choices. And you can also import quizzes from Excel. The Excel can be on your local device or in your content vault. If you need the template, you can download it here. So here's the basic setup. Now, you obviously would type in a question, whatever question you want. Say, what fruit is red? Something simple. And over here you have your answers. Now, you decide which one's going to be the correct answer by clicking on it, and it will turn it into a green check. All right, so this one is going to be the correct answer. You also have the ability to type in your answers. Now, if you can always just backspace, just like any text editor, but let's say you want to go through and delete the whole thing. You just click on the eraser tool and it gets rid of it. Now, why is the eraser tool important? I'll show you that in just a minute. This tool right here allows you to give more space. Let's say it's a really long answer and you want to make more space for it. Now, the eraser tool, it's very easy to edit text. But if you go back way over here to the embed section, you have embed content. You can click on this and you can actually embed content from local files, webcam, web content. In other words, you can record quick, short, hello, how are you? You know, a speaking response to a question. But I'm just going to click a local file, and I'm going to say I want to insert this image right here, this apple. And it says, well, where do you want to embed this? Click. I'm going to embed it here. Now, obviously, you want to make sure you don't use images that are too big because it will kind of overwhelm it. And then if I decide, no, I don't want to put the apple there, I just click on the erase tool and it gets rid of it. Now notice all this space. There's no need to worry about that because it will default back to normal size once it's all gone. All you have to do is navigate off and then navigate back on. So let's go ahead and do that again. I'm going to embed my local file, my apple here, and I'm going to embed my orange here. And go back up to my quiz settings. I'm just going to leave this at 2 choices. Go ahead and set that 2 choices, and there you go. I guess this should actually say which fruit is red. So there's a simple question. Then I go on to continue to create my other questions, and so on and so on. So this is a basic quiz. Now let's say I now go back out. Are you sure you want to close the quiz? Yes, I am. When I go back in, you'll see now the quiz appears here. It says this quiz has not been launched. Do you want to continue editing, delete it, or do a protected launch? The first thing I want to do is go back up here to the name. Click on the edit, and I'm going to call this quiz color. So you can actually give it whatever name you want to kind of manage it. And then I'm going to add a new quiz. Now, in the lower left, you'll see it has, you're on the quiz right now. You also have the solution. So this is kind of giving them a quick question and the solution to that question. It's a little bit different from the multiple choice. So this is kind of a short answer, and then you quickly give them the answer that they can jot it down or check to see if they were right. and all the settings, etc., are the same. So let's go ahead and back out of that. So now you have two different quizzes. And again, maybe I want to delete this one because there's nothing really there. Or I could change the name. Now when you're ready to launch it with the kids, you can go into the quiz and you can click Launch. You can do a randomized launch, a selected launch, or just click Launch. Now, you should be in a live class to launch the quiz. Obviously, I have no students here, so I can't launch anything. But understand, a randomized launch, it just randomly selects students to give the quiz to. A selected launch is when you say, I'm going to pick the students that are currently in my class to take this quiz. And the simple launch just broadcasts it out to all the students. Now obviously the other tools you have the same tools as far as embedding and color pickers and so on and so forth. So all the editing is done. And that's it. And then you would just simply wait until you're ready and launch it for the quiz. And that's your basic interactive whiteboard. Now what I'm going to show you is what it kind of looks like when students are actually in the interactive whiteboard. Okay, now you prepared your whiteboard and you're all ready to go. You are ready to start your class. So it's the day of the class and I'm going to start teaching class number 2. So instead of prepare, I click Start. And the same interactive whiteboard will come up, but it's going to be in present mode. Now, the one big difference here is you have this right here. That's your student manager. So this is where you manage your students. Obviously, there's no students in here at this time. But as the students, as you launch it, they'll start to see this on their device. Kind of a join now to join a live class. Now, it's not a problem if this doesn't appear on their whiteboard or on their app because they have to be in the app. Because if they navigate to whatever lesson you're teaching, it will tell them live class is in progress and they just simply click on this and they'll join it. Now afterwards, if they've attended, it will be a check mark and saying they attended on such and such a date. If they did not attend, it'll be an X and said they missed this class. But again, at any time they can go and click on a whiteboard even after class is done, and they can go back and just basically see what you did for that day. They can review it afterwards and they can edit as well. So again, different ways for them to join the class or join the whiteboard. And once they're in, you can see now we have 2 students that have joined this class. Now, everything else remains the same, obviously, the tools. So I'm going to focus on this right here. This is your control center for the students. And you can see I've got all my enrolled students, and student number 1 and number 2 are in it, and student number 3, 4, and 5 are not in the class. Now, if I'm having difficulty reading it, I can always zoom in the controls, or if I want to see more students, I can zoom out. It's really up to me. Now, the other thing that I can do is I can lock all their devices, or I can blank their screens. Blanking their screens will make their screens go black, and it will say your screen has been blanked by your instructor. It's a great way to get them to stop and look up at you. If they have their head buried in their device and you want to stop for a second. And then you just simply unblank to bring the presentation back up. You can lock all the devices, meaning they can't do anything, they can't write, etc. Because as you can see, when these students are actually in their device, they can actually make their own notes and you'll see what it is they're doing. Now I've seen students, make crazy drawings, etc. And I can quickly give them a little X, or I can peek very quickly at their screen. I can broadcast it. That means all the other students can see it. Sometimes you really don't want to do that. You can click exit and go back out. I can give them a little check mark if I think they're doing well. If I click on the student's screen, I can individually lock that student's screen. I can again broadcast it to the students, or I can make them the presenter, kind of flipping it for a specific amount of time to say, hey, you are now going to be the presenter. So go ahead and, here's a slide, go ahead and tell us what you think. So these are different ways that you can control the whiteboard and the tablet devices quickly within your device. So that's really the only big difference between it. The students will see exactly what you see, and they will see exactly their notes, and it will save it for them. And each student will have their own individual copy of their whiteboard to take their own notes on. So you can see each one has it differently. And that's your interactive whiteboard. We'll go ahead and end this class, and thank you very much.